Ladies and gentlemen, Senator Roy Blunt on the line with us, calling from Washington, D.C. A lot going on with you. How are you, Senator?
Jamie, I'm good. To be part of a totally dysfunctional organization, the United States Senate, frustrated that we're not doing the work that needs to be done, and even more frustrated by that piece you just played. I mean, it's clear that the president believes that every problem can be solved in Washington, D.C. by the federal government, which apparently means if you think all problems should be solved in Washington, then it's so complicated you don't solve any problems. I'm just hoping the American people are listening and paying attention here and know what's at stake in this election year, both in control of the Senate and the White House.
Yeah, he's almost demeaning the word investment, because the way we see investments is our money we earned, our private capital being invested in something we deem to be meaningful. In terms of what he describes as an investment, really is just simply a seizure of income redistributed to one of his pet deals, pet projects.
Well, it's spending, and he knows he knows that the American people have figured out the problem is we're spending way too much money. We've let our government get bigger than our economy can support. We've had unbelievable deficits and an unbelievable position of the government in the economy in terms of the amount of dollars the government is demanding that it be allowed to spend in Washington, D.C., and so you don't want to call it spending. He could call it targeted spending. He could call it spending that we agree on. But, what he's trying to do is suggest that states and communities aren't responsible for education. The federal government is. And states and communities aren't responsible for the kinds of things that are best left closer to home, while the federal government needs to do the things that only the federal government has the capacity to do, like defend the country and figure out how to make these programs that we have committed to over the last 50 years continue to be out there in the future. Things like Social Security and Medicare and things that people have been led to believe they should rely on. And instead of saving those programs, the president wants to talk about all kinds of new spending, and, of course, he calls it new investing.
Now, Senator Blunt, when it comes to the stalemate, or just, I don't know whether you call it a stalemate, but the lack of accomplishment in part of the Senate, what do you owe that to? What do you think that?
Well, the majority does control the agenda in the Senate, and we just waste week after week. I challenged the majority leader last week to bring the appropriations bills to the floor. One of the ways you can control spending is debate how you're going to spend the money. We haven't had a single appropriations bill on the floor, while every week we have these bills on the floor that everybody pass just to try to make one political point after another instead of taking a position on the issues that matter. So there's no budget, there's no appropriations bills, and then at the news conference following the one I participated in with the majority leader, Mr. Reid said, we're not going to do any appropriations bills till after the election. And why is that? Because they don't want people to know what they're for until after the election.
Yeah. Now, in terms of there's an op-ed piece written by a woman who runs a business here in the St. Louis area who is supporting your efforts, and you and Dick Durbin working together apparently for what would ultimately amount to an online sales tax. Explain to me, because we've been talking about it all morning, and really people are split on it. Some say, well, why is government involved in this? Why is the national government involved in this? I'm wondering whether or not this actual bill you're promoting is actually a means of getting states more power to go ahead and impose the sales tax. What's your motivation here? What's this all about?
Well, in most of the states, anything you buy online, you're legally obligated to pay the tax, but there's no real mechanism to do it. And frankly, let's face it, most of the people we know don't figure out, okay, how do I connect myself with the Department of Revenue and pay this tax that wasn't charged. So this is a tax that in almost every state people owe, they just don't pay. And what the Marketplace Fairness Act would say is that we're going to create a way that becomes part of the internet purchase. And many small businesses can tell you stories of people who come in, try on the wedding dress, write down the number, and then go out and order it online. And maybe the only difference is the 5% or 8% sales tax. But the person that came into the store used the sidewalk, benefited from the police protection that allowed them to shop in that community, and then avoided paying for the very things that they benefited from. And the states can opt out. This is a states' rights bill to the extent that the states can say, no, we don't want to be part of that system, and we don't want to collect our sales tax on online sales, but a significant portion of people's buying is now done online, and that means states and communities are really at a time when they're not collecting the revenue that's actually legally due them, and voters have legally approved. And this just says this is not taxing the use of the internet. It's just marketplace fairness in that you're going to pay the tax that you owe, whether you buy it online or you buy it at the bridal shop or the hardware store.
Ultimately, this will allow states, though, who decide to be part of this to compel people to pay. Is that right? I mean, isn't that kind of what this is all about? I mean, right now, states really can't compel people to pay the sales tax. This would allow states to go ahead and do that, right?
This would allow states to require people to pay the sales tax. That's right.
Okay, so but a state doesn't have to, right?
The state can say we don't want to be part of that. That's exactly right. That would be a Jefferson City decision, not a Washington, D.C. decision.
All right. I get it. So it's an interesting point of view, and clearly this woman who's a small business person it's called Treats Unleashed, was very, very adamant about how it's really hurting her business her brick-and-mortar business compared to the online guys, and it doesn't represent a true level playing field. Not that the government always has to ensure that, but if she's paying it, the other guys ought to as well. And
the government in the current system where you're saying you don't collect the tax that's due is picking winners and losers by saying to the online merchant, if people buy from you, you don't have to collect the tax. But if they buy from your next door neighbor's store down the street, she does have to collect the tax.
Yeah.
And so under the current system, there really is a picking winners and losers. We decided for some reason in the fledgling world of internet buying that, well, this is not a big enough deal to worry about. So rather than try to calculate what your sales tax would be where you live, we're just not going to. We're going to let you independently pay that tax. And so you've really created a group of people who don't obey the law because it's almost impossible for them to obey the law.
All right. Well, Senator Blunt, thanks a lot for the illumination on that one, and best of luck to you.
Maybe the only thing Dick Durbin and I ever agree on.
I know.
So we'd better
I know.
Better work hard to get this done.
Yeah, a lot of people, the mere fact that Durbin's involved, a lot of people who called into the show are like, I don't know whether I even like this just because I'm seeing the word Durbin associated with it. But good luck, and Senator Blunt, thanks a lot for calling in, and good talking to you,
Jamie,
my friend.
Great to talk to you. Thanks for what you're doing every day.
All right.
It's an important 100 and handful of days coming up between now and the election.
No doubt about it, my friend. Blunt.senate.gov.